FAB-Racing.
And it's going to be an extremely exciting race in this one, as we've got a battle for the championship hotting up really nicely. Just 21 points between Ethan Sparks and Ronnie Harris.
Yeah, and this is one I really enjoy watching, because it's going to be Ethan Sparks versus Ronnie Harris, you imagine, for the rest of this season. And Ethan Sparks, who I'm sure will be buzzing after that last corner, snatching a victory in the AC40 Pro class. And yeah, so he will be going up against Ronnie Harris. And Ronnie, who has maybe got a point to prove after making a slight mistake in Ella Park a couple of weeks ago, which cost him the chance of staying with Ethan in this championship. Ethan's built that lead out to 21 points, but behind they've got a huge gap, 133 points back to Mason Foster and 141 back to Ollie Horner. So these pair of riders are absolutely flying away in this championship. Ethan Sparks with 6 wins and 12 podiums, yet to finish outside of the top 4. Ronnie Harris with 5 wins and 13 podiums, and in fact the only 2 times that he's finished off of the podium has been when he's scored no points and made mistakes. So a fall at Wilson Mill and a fall at Ella Park. But Ronnie Harris, who is a very fast starter, he will be starting in 2nd position, and he will have his eye on the turn 1 and very much on Ethan Sparks, knowing that he needs to start recovering some points on Ethan Sparks. And with Ethan with a 21 point advantage, if they are going to be 1st and 2nd pretty much the rest of the season, as we've seen from the pair of them, then you're going to have Ronnie needing to pick up wins over 2nd position. But it will be Ethan Sparks in the 62 and lining up on the pole position. The Ronnie Harris, who will be in the 66 in 2nd place, and the pair of them were split by half a second in 1st and 2nd. Ollie Horner will line up in 3rd with Cameron Sewell. A brilliant qualifying session, and watch out for Cameron. He's my dark horse this weekend. He has been brilliant here at this Rowrah circuit, at the West Cumbria Kart circuit. Blake Wilson in 5th with Charlie Huntingford in 6th. Sam Munson, the 72, will be coming in 7th as he backs into his grid slot in 7th, with Harrison McKay in 8th. Philip Sroviak in 9th position, with Clayton Edmonds in 10th, with Jacob Stevenson and Casey Sperry in 12th position. And then rounding out the 7th row will be Harry Payne and Ollie Sims, and they will be heading down towards turn 1 very, very shortly, getting ready for this one. Ethan Sparks, Ronnie Harris, I can't wait for this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a really exciting race in this one, with your top 2 in the championship on that front row, and it's going to be a battle between those two, with both having a pretty fairly close times in qualifying, but Ethan Sparks half a second quicker than Ronnie Harris in qualifying, but both into the 54s. So it'll be interesting to see what these two are going to be able to do. So it's it's going to be a brilliant battle in this one between those two, but equally the likes of Ollie Horner, who we've seen on pole position quite a bit, 3rd on the grid. Can he make his way up into and battle with the likes of Ethan Sparks and Ronnie Harris? Cameron Sewell, like you said, really strong this weekend on the number 100, the blue and yellow bike, looking really strong this weekend, pace that we haven't seen in other circuits from the number 100 of Cameron Sewell, and he's going to be looking to pick up his first podium of the year.
Yeah, he will. Best result so far this season for Cam Sewell is 6th position, and last time around in Ella Park was his most successful round of the season, where he picked up 25 points in total across that weekend. So watch out for the 100. As I said, dark horse as he rolls into his grid slot in 4th position. Very much you can tell who he is on the side with big Cam, so that's easier for us to work out. Ollie Horner in 3rd. He has 2 pole positions to his name, and Ollie has been very good, but it will be the 66 and Ethan Sparks as they look to the lights, getting ready for their first race of the weekend here in the MK GP50 class. The 66 versus the 62 as they get ready to head down to turn 1. Who gets the launch off the line? Lights on. It's a long pause and a jump start. It's a jump start. You can see the lights seem to be on for a long time there, and everyone just getting on the throttle a little bit early. So we roll back, and I'm sure Roger and Rob Keys, they just settle down, get ready to go, wait till they go out, and it's going to be, once again, lights on. Lights off. Who gets the jump off the line? Ethan Sparks with a brilliant launch down towards turn one. Ronnie Harris filters into second. Sam Munson in third position jumps ahead of both Cam Sewell and Ollie Horner. And Cam Sewell has jumped ahead of Ollie Horner as well. But what a brilliant start there from Blake Wilson, I say, the 108.
And there's a problem there for the number 100 of Cameron Sewell, who just runs wide, looking like he was just... and that's Harry Payne as well that's gone down. So disaster for Harry Payne as he looks to try and get back onto that black MK GP50 and back into this race. But Cameron Sewell looking as if he's recovered from whatever problem he had there. Perhaps just missed a gear or something. But Casey Sperry with a brilliant start, coming from 12th on the grid up into, I believe, 5th or 6th in this race. So a brilliant start there for number 20 of Cameron Sewell. But just slotting in behind the number 72 of Sam Munson. That is Harry Payne, who's trying to get restarted in this race. He's going to be quite a way behind these guys, so it's just going to be about picking up points for the number 11 of Harry Payne. But look at this battle here between Ollie Horner, Sam Munson and Harrison McKay, who looks up in the inside at turn 2, not quite able to make a move stick there. That would have been a brilliant move if he could have made that one stick.
Yeah, that was, you could see he has his eyes lit up ready to make that move as Clayton Edmonds tries to go up the inside of Cameron Sewell, who's had a dreadful first lap, dropping down to 8th position. So Clayton Edmonds trying to go around the outside, gets the move done as they go into the second hairpin at Ardales. And now down the back straight, you can see Ollie Horner has got very much his vision as he looks behind him full of red, and he's desperately going to try and keep Sam Munson behind. But at the front, Ethan Sparks and Ronnie Harris already starting to build a lead. Ethan Sparks came across the line with a half-second gap over his title rival Ronnie Harris, and we know that Ronnie's got to start taking points off of Ethan Sparks. But Ethan Sparks got a lightning start off the line, got it into turn 1, and now very much it is job on if you're Ronnie Harris.
Absolutely stuff. Incredible start there for the number 62 with Ethan Sparks, and trying to pull away at the front. 7/10 of a second was the lead across the line, and he's just stretching that lead out at the front. And Ronnie Harris is going to be doing all he can to get back onto the back wheel of the number 62 of Ethan Sparks. But a name we haven't been talking about so far in this race, the number 108 of Blake Wilson, up into 3rd place. That's a good start for Blake, who's come back from 5th place on the grid up into 3rd. So a good start there from Blake Wilson, looking to pick up another podium in this class. Had a good weekend last time out at Ella Park. And that battle for 4th place between Ollie Horner, Sam Munson, Harrison McKay, hotting up really nicely as well. You can just see Sam Munson all over the rear wheel of Ollie Horner at the moment, looking to see where he can make a move stick. Harrison McKay just recovering from that almost move earlier in the race. Just lost a little bit of time from that one as Sam Munson gets alongside the number 70 of Ollie Horner, makes a move into turn 1. So that's Sam Munson, the number 72, up into 4th place. Brilliant move there from the number 72 of Sam Munson. The Munson burner, he likes to be called. But I think you could just see in the top of the picture there, that was Ronnie Harris, who's now caught up to Ethan Sparks. But Ethan Sparks setting the fastest lap of the race on that last lap with a 54.9. But a 55.0 it was for Ronnie Harrison, matching his pace completely at the front. Yeah,
really, really good start from Ethan Sparks, who's just been putting in some stellar laps to open up this race. We've got 9 laps left to go on this opening race of the weekend for the MK GP50 class. And that's Cam Sewell at the side of the circuit. Disaster. We were saying we were looking forward to him, but you said that it looked like he might have a bike issue, and he pulls to the side, and disaster for Cam. You can see just how disappointed he knew that he had a brilliant grid position, a 4th, had a really good shot of a podium in this one, but unfortunately for him, pulling off to the side of the road and out of this race. Ollie Horner still closing in after losing that position to Sam Munson, and Ollie is he's probably one of those, he's just outside of that top 3, isn't he? He's picked up a couple of podiums, he's picked up a lot of 4th positions, and he just needs to get into that extra gear to get himself up into that regular podium and race winning contention.
Yeah, he's always there or thereabouts as the number 70 of Ollie Horner. Picked up a couple of pole positions, hasn't quite managed to pick up a win so far this year, but has picked up a few podiums and has had a very good season so far. He was 4th back at Lid, picked up a few 4ths there, managed to bridge that that gap to the podium in the following rounds, and in a good place in this race as well. Currently 5th in this one behind Sam Munson, but Blake Wilson has managed to stretch a lead over those guys. The number 108, he's in 3rd and has got a good bit of a gap ahead of Sam Munson and Ollie Horner. That battle for 4th and 5th. But here he is then, Ethan Sparks, who's just stretching that lead out at the front. 1 second it is now that Ethan Sparks has over Ronnie Harris. We haven't seen much of these two this race because they've just checked out at the front of this one, and Ethan Sparks, you can see there, going down into the far end of the circuit. Still 7 laps to go in this race, so anything can happen in this one, but Ethan Sparks looking really strong at the front of this one. Ronnie Harris just needs to be able to regroup and try and get his head down, hit all his markers, put in some smooth, consistent pace, get into a rhythm, and see if he can get back onto the back wheel of Ethan Sparks. But Ethan Sparks has been able to get into a rhythm of his own and just absolutely nailing the laps at the front and just stretching that lead lap on lap, setting fastest lap after fastest lap. 54.6 for Ronnie Harris, but for Ethan Sparks rather, but as Ethan Sparks gets quicker, so does Ronnie Harris. A 54.7 from Ronnie Harris, so almost matching Ethan's pace at the front, but just not quite able to close in that gap, because if Ethan can keep putting in those lap times in, Ronnie Harris won't be able to catch Ethan Sparks. But he's putting in a brilliant effort to try and do it. Yeah,
and when Ethan Sparks gets into a mindset like this, we've seen this from him a couple of weekends so far this season, and I don't like to pull puns on people's names, but he is lightning in a bottle. He just turns it up to another level, and when he's on it, he is on it, and you can tell he's just eking that lead out over Ronnie Harris. Is now up to 1.1 seconds. Now it is Ronnie that needs to take points off of Ethan, but Ethan now scything his way up and passing Harry Payne, and laps the 11 bike there, and he's now put himself a huge distance. He's made up 5/10 of a second on Ronnie Harris on that last lap, and goes purple again. So Ethan Sparks is coming alive in the late stages of this one. We're just over 5 laps left to go, so we're over halfway through this one, and Ethan Sparks is just riding off into the distance. Ronnie Harris is really struggling to stay with him.
Yeah, he's absolutely flying at the front. Every lap he seems to come round. It's the fastest lap of the race, and really consistent as well. 54.6 and then a 54.5 on that last one, and just able to put a pace down that no one else can quite stick with. Ronnie Harris is just trying to hang on to the coattails of Ethan Sparks, but Ethan just with a pace in this race that no one really has an answer for in this race 1 for the MK GP50s. But look at this battle brewing for 4th spot between Sam Munson, Ollie Horner and Harrison McKay. Sam Munson's just got a little bit of breathing space now ahead of the number 70 of Ollie Horner, but Harrison McKay all over the rear wheel of Ollie Horner, as Ollie Horner just manages to get up back with Sam Munson. Has a look down into the final corner, can't quite make a move stick as they head on to the front straight. Just lost a little bit of drive there to the number 70 of Ollie Horner, but he'll be right back onto the rear wheel of Sam Munson in no time, as he already is there back onto the back wheel of Sam Munson. Harrison McKay there also looking really menacing and just looking like he wants to be able to get through on these guys. Harrison McKay, another rider we've seen regular podiums for the number 61 of Harrison McKay on that True Heroes liveried bike there, a livery that you'll be familiar with if you watch the Ducati Tri-Options or even over in Stock 1000. But here in the MK GP50 race, Harrison McKay doing what he can to try and get past these guys, but Sam Munson doing a good job to cling on to 4th place as well.
Yeah, Ollie Horner just taking in that turn 6 a little bit too wide at Stewart, and he just lost a little bit of time to Sam Munson in 4th position. But Blake Wilson, he's having a nice run in 3rd position on his own, but up at the front, Ethan Sparks has now built that lead out to 2.8 seconds. He's just put the afterburners on in this late stages of this one, and Ronnie Harris has got nothing to answer him with, and last time round he was a comfortable 3.5 of a second faster than Ronnie Harris, and Ethan Sparks is riding off into the distance. We're coming around to start 2 last laps, and he's coming up to the penultimate lap board very, very shortly, and Ethan Sparks is having a brilliant day so far. Of course, picked up the AC40 Pro win on the last corner with a move on Archie Gibbs, and now in the MK GP50s on the metric hit bike, he's looking pretty well nailed on if he can keep it on two wheels. The final 2 laps of this one as he comes across the line to take the penultimate lap, and Ethan Sparks will lead by 3.2 seconds. So even in these late stages, he's just building that gap out and out and out. So he's just pushing as much as he was at the start.
Absolutely, yeah. 2 laps to go for these guys, and Ethan Sparks, one thing that he's been able to do really well in this race, as well as put down a consistent pace, he's been able to get through the back markers, get through the lap traffic a little bit quicker than the number 66 of Ronnie Harris has been able to do, and that's what's helped stretch out that lead for the number 62 of Ethan Sparks. But of course, that consistency at the front and that solid fast pace for the number 62 of Ethan Sparks is really what has helped him in this race here. He's gone well here at Rowrah in the past. Seems to like this circuit. Obviously picked up a win, like I said, earlier on in the AC40 Pros, and looking really comfortable at the front of this race 1 for the MK GP50s as he goes on to start the final lap of the day for the MK GP50s. Goes down into the left-hand hairpin for the final time, and he's just been brilliant at the front of this one, using all the circuits, and 3.6 seconds it was over the line. So a comfortable win it's going to be for the number 62 of Ethan Sparks as he heads down to the far end of the circuit for the final time. You can just see there, just cruising around this final lap. He knows he's got this one in the bag. He knows that Ronnie Harris is a good 3.5 seconds behind, and he's going to be able to take this win on with style as he heads down to the final few corners. The number 62 of Ethan Sparks comes around the penultimate corner, down into the final corner for the final time. What a ride it's been for the number 62 of Ethan Sparks. Takes the flag. Brilliant win there for the number 62 of Ethan Sparks, and Ronnie Harris it is that will take second place on the number 66. The battle for the championship continues at the front, and Blake Wilson is going to be taking third place there. Brilliant podium from him, and that battle for fourth hotting up as well at the front. It's Sam Munson that won that battle.
Yeah, and it was, and he comes across the line ahead of Ollie Horner and Harrison McKay by 0.4 of a second as Clayton Edmonds just jumps up ahead of Casey Sperry on the final lap. Charlie Huntingford in 9th position, and Felix Sroviak matching his best result on the season in 10th position, with Ollie Sims and Jacob Stevenson in 11th and 12th. Harry Payne down in 13th. But you can see the 2 title rivals on circuit and shaking hands and thumbs up to each other. But Ethan Sparks once again showing us that he is a rider to watch out for in the next few years. He is definitely going to be one of those ones that you want to keep your eye on, and he takes the race win ahead of Ronnie Harris in second, with Blake Wilson another podium for him in third place. Sam Munson held off the fight of Ollie Horner and Harrison McKay for 4th position. Clayton Edmonds in 7th with Casey Sperry in 8th. Charlie Huntingford in 9th. We'll see him in the LC40 Elites later today. Philip Soroviak in 10th place, matching his best result on the season. Ollie Sims, Jacob Stevenson and Harry Payne rounding out the finishes, and unfortunately we lost Cam Sewell, who started in 4th but had a bike issue, pulled to the side of the road. We'll see if we can get Cam on circuit later this weekend. Filtering into position comes your pole sitter Ethan Sparks, and then championship rival. Then the 66 is Ronnie Harris, but it is Ethan Sparks and Ronnie Harris on row 1 in first and second. Ollie Horner in 3rd position, just coming into position now, and he will have Cam Sewell, who was very, very good, unfortunately retired from race 1, and Cam Sewell will be in 4th position, with Blake Wilson, yesterday's 3rd place finisher, in 5th, with Charlie Huntingford in 6th. Sam Munson in 7th position on the 77, with the 61 of Harrison McKay, who had a bike issue yesterday, in 8th. Philip Soroviak in 9th, with Clayton Edmonds back in 10th. Then we've got Jacob Stevenson on the 67 and Casey Sperry in the 20. And then on the final row of the grid, we have Harry Payne and Ollie Sims.
Yeah, it's a packed grid here for the MK GP50s, and a brilliant job done by Dan there to weave his way through those MK GP50 bikes as they get underway for their warm-up lap here for race 2 for the MK GP50s. And loads of names in this race that we've seen on the podiums, but it's been those 2 at the front, Ethan Sparks and Ronnie Harris, that have dominated and been so consistent in this championship. But we've seen plenty of names make their way onto the podiums and battling for podium positions. Plenty of riders also looking looking for their first podiums of the year. Riders such as Cameron Sewell will be looking to pick up a podium. Ollie Horner has had a couple. He'll be looking to do that as well. Blake Wilson had a couple back at Ella Park. He'll also be looking to get up onto that podium. Clayton Edmonds we saw take race wins early on in the season. So all these riders on their absolute limits in this class, and a brilliant depth of field here in the MK GP50 class. Of course, on their road to MotoGP in the official partner series to BSB here at FAB-Racing. And this is where it all begins. This is where all these riders will be learning their racecraft and learning their way around this sport, ready to project themselves onto the world stage. These, of course, are the stars of the future for the British bike racing scene. Riders such as Ethan Sparks, Ronnie Harris, all these riders, expect to see them moving up through the ranks later on in their careers. But their focus currently is on this race 2 for the MK GP50s. We had an exciting race yesterday between Ethan Sparks and Ronnie Harris. Ethan Sparks getting the better of Ronnie Harris yesterday, and that battle for the championship brewing really nicely, really, and one we can expect to see go down to the wire with these two matched for pace at every circuit. But Ethan Sparks is who has the advantage this weekend. He'll look to the lights for race 2 for the MK GP50s. They look to the lights are on, and the lights will be going off very shortly, and that's a good start there from Ollie Horner, who got a good launch off of the line, just looks up to the inside of Ronnie Harris, can't quite make a move stick, but a brilliant start from Ethan Sparks, who's managed to already stretch a lead out at the front. They're all side by side as they come through the chicane for the first time down into the hairpin. That's where the oil is. Hopefully they'll all be able to stay away from that patch of oil as Harrison McKay makes up a position there. You can see bikes everywhere in the background there. Blake Wilson also fending off Cameron Sewell there, so Cameron Sewell just dropping through the order slightly from that 4th place on the grid. Blake Wilson coming up from 5th place on the grid. But Ethan Sparks, look at Ethan, he's flying away at the front, already got a gap ahead of Ronnie Harris, and Ronnie Harris with a little bit of breathing space as well. Yeah,
that was a brilliant start, as we saw in the earlier in the weekend at the Saturday races with Ethan Sparks. He just has a brilliant launch off the line, and he's done it once again. Ronnie Harris is going to have to go with him, and behind off the line, Felix Sorowiak had a brilliant start. Unfortunately, just got squeezed onto the curb by Clayton Edmonds and had to drop off the throttle. But across the line, Ethan Sparks leads away from Ronnie Harris already. Lap 1 has gained him a 1.3 second advantage. Ollie Horner is in 3rd with Blake Wilson in 4th, and he managed to jump Cam Sewell, and Cam, who had a very, very good Friday, and he was only really the only rider that went out and braved it in the very, very wet conditions, and it seemed to have helped him in good stead for Saturday in qualifying. But he just needs to be picking up his best result of the season. So far his best result is 6th, so he's bettering that at the moment in 5th position. However, he's got Harrison McKay, and you've got to think with Harrison, who had that issue yesterday with the brakes, he's definitely going to be wanting to pick up some points after a disappointing race 1.
Yeah, scary accident there from Harrison McKay yesterday. Crashed out at the left-hander on the far end of the circuit on the penultimate corner, and then got back on the bikes, but back onto the bike, but unfortunately then a brake failure into the next corner saw him barreling off into the tyre wall. So we're really unfortunate there for Harrison McKay, but hopefully that won't have affected his head too much, and he'll be able to put the hammer down in this race. Currently running in 6th place in this race and trying to climb his way up through the order. Also Clayton Edmonds in there, a rider we're used to seeing normally a bit further up the sharp end, but making his way through on this grid, starting from 10th place on the grid and making his way up to 8th place in this race currently, as Sam Munson has a look at Harrison McKay down into the hairpin, can't quite make a move stick there. And Cameron Sewell, we have to say, he's having a brilliant weekend at the moment.
He is, and he's doing a good job of staying ahead of this battle between Harrison McKay and Sam Munson. But Sam Munson on the 72 looking very, very quick indeed, really hassling the back end of Harrison McKay's bike, but now they are starting to come up to the back of Cam Sewell, and Cameron is almost going to be like a little bit of a bottleneck here, because you've got to think that Harrison's going to want to get past, Sam's going to want to get past, then you've got Clayton. Philip Sorowiak as well is doing a very good job of staying with this battle as well. So Philip, whose best result so far is 10th, didn't have a best of weekends back at Ella Park, but he's staying in this fight that is going all the way up to the sharp end. But it is Ethan Sparks that is building that lead at the front, like we saw yesterday, now up to 2.1 seconds. Ollie Horner equally is falling off the back of Ronnie Harris. So Ronnie having a bit of a quiet race, but here's that fight. Cam Sewell is going to go side by side with Harrison McKay in towards Ardales at turn 5, and around the outside goes Harrison. Clayton is going to have Sam Munson trying to cut up the inside as they all try and trade positions. Almost 3 wide down the back straight as Cam Sewell's going to get swallowed up, it seems, but just manages to hold on to the position. But behind, you can see now that he's got ahead, that Harrison McKay is starting to make a bit of a breakaway ahead of Cam Sewell.
Yeah, absolutely. So you could see Harrison McKay was really desperate to try and get past Cameron Sewell. He obviously thought that he had a little bit something in the bag and could pull away, as Sam Munson has a look up the inside, but can't quite make a move stick. But Cameron Sewell definitely not letting this guy's break away. But Blake Wilson now right onto the back wheel of Ollie Horner. So Blake Wilson on the number 108, he's looking for another podium. Of course, this is the battle for third place between Ollie Horner and Blake Wilson, the number 70 and number 108. Blake Wilson, we saw him on the podium back at Ella Park, and equally Ollie Horner taken 2 pole positions so far this season, third on the grid for this race, picked up a few podiums as well. He's looking for his first win at some point in this season, but of course Ethan Sparks and Ronnie Harris is just so dominant out the front of this MK GP50 class. But this battle now then brewing between the number 70 and the number 108, that's Ollie Horner and Blake Wilson battling for third place, and this is one of the closest battles we have on circuit at the moment, and both these riders are going to be desperate to pick up a podium in this race.
Yeah, Blake Wilson, who if he manages to pick up a podium, will make it 3 third place finishes in a row. He's having a look to the inside, going into the chicane. Ollie holding on to the line, and in fact he gets a little bit of a better drive and better exit out of that and down as they go towards turn 4. McRae's and Ollie Horner holds on to third position ahead of Blake Wilson. Blake Wilson's going to have to reload and go again and find the position to make the move on Ollie Horner. And Ollie, who's picked up a couple of podiums, picked up 3 thirds, as you said, 2 pole positions back at Clay Pigeon and Wilton Mill, and he's comfortably been in 4th position quite often. But up the inside will go Blake Wilson. Does he manage to get the position? Not quite. There's a bit of a puddle in that inside line there, so possibly you can see Blake just deciding to brake a little bit earlier, which cost him. Yeah, exactly. I think he just saw that puddle coming and was just didn't want to quite risk it. There's still 7 laps to go in this race, so plenty of time for Blake to study Ollie Horner and try and figure out to where he can make a move. Doesn't need to make any risks at this point in the race. Of course, we're still 6 laps to go in this race as they go into the first complex. But it's your guy at the front, number 62, Ethan Sparks, who's been absolutely flying in this race. Got a 5-second lead over Ronnie Harris, and no one can catch him in this race. He was a second quicker than anyone in Q1, but they just managed to get within half a second of him in Q2. So he had half a second he got on pole by, and he's just absolutely flying out the front of this one. He's been dominant all weekend. No one's been able to keep with the pace of the number 62 of Ethan Sparks, just flying out the front of this race. And you're going to be thinking, if you're Ronnie Harris, you're just starting to see that championship slip away ever so slightly with this pace of Ethan Sparks. Yeah, and we said this yesterday, that Ethan is one of those riders to watch out for in the future, because it's he's doing it on the mini motos and on the bigger bikes, on the Metrikit GP50s as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does if he makes his way into GP70s, because that's of course the premier class of FAB-Racing, the final step before they head off to British Talent Cup, and goes out slightly wide through the exit as Sam Munson cuts down the inside of Harrison McKay, the 72, back up into, or makes his way back up past, as behind you can see that's Philip Sorowiak, that's actually now got himself right up in the battle, because he's got past Clayton Edmonds and started to build a bit of a gap. So Philip Sorowiak, he's going to get a really good run. Can he get 2 positions in one? Sam Munson's getting bumped around, but Philip Sorowiak down the inside of Sam Munson. Can Sam get a run out? You can see not happy. Sam Munson, arm up in the air. It looks as though he wasn't particularly happy with the 61 of Harrison McKay. Yeah, I think the 72 of Sam Munson just had a little Mr. Gear or something coming out of that corner, because he just came out with no drive, seemed to be fiddling with the gear lever there, so perhaps just in the wrong gear coming out of that corner, and that gave Harrison McKay the drive to be able to come through on him. And then Philip Sorowiak just took advantage of those 2 bashing elbows and managed to get himself ahead of Sam Munson as well. So this battle's brewing up really nicely between these 3, swapping positions and a bit of bar bashing going on in this race. But Philip Sorowiak has done really well to climb up through the order in this one. He started from 9th on the grid, and he's just was towards the back of this group, but he's just carved his way through this group, and now looking at the back of Harrison McKay, and this is the battle for 5th place in this race. You can just see again, it just looked as if Sam Munson just lost drive out of that final corner, that hairpin there. So I don't know if it's just something that he keeps missing the gear there, or perhaps just something not quite right with that GP50 machine. He just seems to be looking down at the bike there, so perhaps some sort of problems happening there for the number 72 of Sam Munson, but still managing to stay on the back of these guys. So whatever it is there, he's riding around any issues that he has on that MK GP50 machine, as Philip Sorowiak has a little look to the inside. Would be a bit of a bold move to make a move there, but we have seen it done this weekend. Has a look at the final corner, takes a very tight line, manages to make a move stick. Will he make it stick as he comes across the line? Yes, he does. Sam Munson takes a look to
to the inside. Harrison McKay looking to the inside as they go into the first complex. Still 3 laps to go in this race, but these guys absolutely swapping positions and swapping paint in this race.
Yeah, smart riding there from Harrison McKay. I think he knew that he ran out wide on the exit of the final corner. He knew that Sam Munson was going to get a run on him down the inside, so he just quickly covered him off before they got to turn 1 at the chicane. But Filip Sorowiak, whose current best result of the season so far is 10th, is currently found himself up in 5th position and is riding like a man possessed. He's been fighting his way through the field. He's made his way through some very, very accomplished riders like Harrison McKay, like Sam Munson, like Clayton Edmonds, and he's got himself to the head of this pack. And he can now, if he can break away, going to start to comfortably just, well, there's a bit of a gap between himself and Blake Wilson and Ollie Horner, who are still fighting it out of that 3rd place finish. But Harrison McKay, I'm sure, will be wanting to stay with Philip, but you can see the gap is already starting to extend, and Filip Sorowiak having a very good race. Here comes Sam Munson just having a look to the inside of Harrison McKay and not quite able to get the move done. And we have battles throughout the field. This is why I love the MK GP50s. You cannot look, you just have to look and you have to have about 4 different pairs of eyes, because everything is happening on circuit at once, and everyone is fighting positions, everyone wants points, everyone wants to get better.
Yeah, absolutely so. And this battle's brewing on really nicely as well. Further down the field between Ollie Sims and Jacob Stevenson. This is the battle for 13th place in this race. And you can just see there Ollie Sims going real defensive, trying to keep that number 67 of Jacob Stevenson. Behind him is doing all he can to keep that number 67 bike behind him. But 1 lap to go in this race then. And it's Ethan Sparks who's been absolutely dominant out the front of this one. And there he is then, your race leader and championship leader, the number 62, Ethan Sparks. Just a few more corners for Ethan to negotiate himself around half a lap for Ethan Sparks to take his 2nd win of the weekend. Can anyone stop him in this MK GP50 championship? Absolutely flying. He really wants that title in the MK GP50s, and Ronnie Harris will pick up 20 points as well in this one. So the battle for the championship continues in this MK GP50 championship, but just a few more corners for the number 62 to take his 2nd race win of the weekend. Comes through the final corner for the final time. It's going to be Ethan Sparks that takes 25 points here for the MK GP50s. Brilliant win for the number 62 of Ethan Sparks. What a victory by a commanding lead that he had there. Ronnie Harris comes across the line to pick up 7, but that's a big moment there before the number 72 of Sam Munson just made contact with the rear wheel there of Harrison McKay, and that's allowed Clayton Edmonds to make his way through as well. Filip Sorowiak comes across in 5th, and there's Harrison McKay. Clayton Edmonds got the better of the number 72 of Sam Munson with that bit of a moment he had there. So brilliant battles all through this field, Gareth.
Oh, take a breath, Trystan. What a brilliant call to the end of that one. But yeah, what a race from Ethan Sparks. Once again, he absolutely blows away the field, and he takes the race win by 8.5 seconds to Ronnie Harris and extends that lead in the championship now to 31 points. Ollie Horner managed to hold off Blake Wilson on the line by less than 1/10 of a second. I'm sure Blake will be kicking himself, but Ollie will be delighted in 3rd. Filip Sorowiak, best result of the season. Congratulations to Filip. He finishes in 5th. Harrison McKay in 6th. Clayton Edmonds jumped ahead of Sam Munson after that contact between Harrison McKay and Sam Munson on the line. So Clayton in 7th, Sam dropping to 8th, ahead of Charlie Huntingford, who we'll see in the LC40 Elites very soon. And Cam Sewell, not the best of races for Cam, started in 4th and fell all the way back down to 10th position. But outside we had Harry Payne and Ollie Sims and Jacob Stevenson in 12th, or Casey Sperry, sorry, in 11th, and Harry, Ollie and Jacob. But once again, it is Ethan Sparks doing exactly what we've seen so much from that young man this season, whether it be here, whether it be the likes of Ella Park, whether it be Wilson Mill, Clay Pigeon, the likes of them. He has been fantastic.
You can see that there is the number 62 of Ethan Sparks on pole position. The black bike with the orange number just ahead of the number 66 of Ronnie Harris there, right in your picture. Coming up to line in the 3rd spot on the grid is Ollie Horner on the blue and yellow bike with the number 100 of Cameron Sewell just next to him. 5th spot on the grid is Blake Wilson with Charlie Hunterford on the Motor Technics sponsored bike there in 6th. 7th place is Sam Munson just ahead of Harrison McKay. Filip Sorowiak there on the blue bike just next to the number 146 of Clayton Edmonds in 10th. The number 67 of Jacob Stevenson is in 11th ahead of Casey Sperry in 12th. Harry Payne in 13th, with Ollie Sims rounding out your grid in 14th on this race.
We know that it's going to be Ethan Sparks who has got the advantage in this one. He's already taken 2 wins on the weekend. Ronnie Harris seemingly just not quite close enough to catch Ethan. So what can Ronnie do in this third and final race of the weekend? Ollie Horner equally had a good race too. He picked up a podium and held off the fight of Blake Wilson, who was on third in the first race of the weekend yesterday, which of course you can find by watching all of the replays back on FAB-Racing's YouTube and Facebook page throughout the week when the edited highlights are uploaded. So if you want to watch the GP50s, you can just watch the GP50s. So they'll be uploaded throughout the week. So make sure you like, share, subscribe and get involved with the FAB-Racing YouTube and Facebook community. This is the Road to MotoGP, part of Dorna's Road to MotoGP programme. It is an official partner of the Bennett's British Superbikes. This is FAB-Racing and the MK GP50s, the Metrokit GP50 bikes. These riders will be having their eyes firmly fixed on the 70 class or even the British Talent Cup in the next few years' time. Ethan Sparks is one of those riders. We might even see him picking up 2 championships on the mini motos and on the Metrokits, and I'm sure he will pretty much be rubbing his hands together at the prospect of a third race win this weekend, with Ronnie Harris maybe not quite close enough to put in a charge for the race win here. We'll see what Ronnie can do as he rolls into his grid slot, and once again Ethan Sparks very much focused, eyes staring forward, never looks left, never looks right, very much just staring at the lights, revving, getting ready to start his third race of the weekend. Cameron Sewell in 4th position. He'll be looking at a good result after a poor race too. Watch out for Felix Rowrah from 10th position. He finished in 5th last time around as we go lights on, getting ready for the third and final race. Lights off. Ethan Sparks, very brilliant launch off the line, straight up into the lead. Ronnie Harris holds on to second. Blake Wilson now finds himself up ahead of Ollie Horner, and Cam Sewell dropped down to 5th position.
Yeah, Cam Sewell just seems to struggle off these starts. We've seen it in the 2 races for his drop from 4th to further down. Then you see him running wide there. He just struggles at the beginning of these races and just drops through the order. It's such a shame because he's got such brilliant pace, and we do see him putting that pace down later in the race, but he just needs to sort out those first laps and make sure he can make some positions up in the early stages of these races instead of losing them. Also looking further back, the number 67 of Jacob Stevenson just leading ahead of Charlie Huntingford. You see Ollie Sims there just making a move through on Harry Payne, trying to make his way through. There's battles all the way through this field, but it was these guys that were battling it out earlier on in the race earlier on today for that 5th spot, and it was such a brilliant battle, such close racing, and we expect to see even more of that in this race. But it's Ethan Sparks that has the lead and already has a 1.6 second lead across the line ahead of Ronnie Harris. No one has been able to catch Ethan Sparks this weekend. He's just putting down that pace once more, and Blake Wilson not too far away from Ronnie Harris at the moment, so Blake Wilson trying to go with Ronnie Harris in this one and trying to pick up a second place instead of third that he got earlier on today. But Harrison McKay defending from Sam Munson at the moment. Harrison McKay defending that 5th spot with Ollie Horner just ahead of them on the number 70 machine. Sam Munson looks to the inside, can't quite make a move stick at the moment. Still obviously plenty of laps to go in this one. 11 laps to go in this 12 lap race here for the MK GP50s. This is the final race of the weekend for the MK GP50s. We've seen 2 wins from Ethan Sparks. Will we see a third? He's definitely looking really hot to be able to do it. He's really quick out the front of this race with setting the fastest lap of the race on that last lap. Of course, that's their first flying lap of this race. 2.6 seconds is the lead that he has over Ronnie Harris. Harrison McKay still defending that bit, but Ollie Horner and Blake Wilson going with Ronnie Harris now. So this is a 3-way battle for second place, and this could be very interesting indeed. We've seen Ollie Horner, a regular podium contender in this championship, and Blake Wilson finding some real pace in this part of the season. We saw him, he was quick back at Ella Park, and now he's right on the rear wheel of Ronnie Harris and challenging your second place man in the championship. And Ronnie Harris, this isn't what he wants at all, because he's obviously, his sights are set on Ethan Sparks and that championship. He's going to be wanting to pick up as many points as possible for that championship battle, but with these guys in the mix with him now, he could be losing some points here.
Yeah, absolutely so, and it was 26 points coming into this round that Ethan Sparks had built over Ronnie Harris, and Ronnie Harris has led the majority of the championship so far. It was only until Ella Park that Ronnie really started to suffer, and it was he's now falling into the clutches of Blake Wilson and Ollie Horner, who's starting to close in. In fact, Ollie Horner just drops off slightly, having a slower lap last time around, and this is really allowing Ethan Sparks to check out at the front. 3.5 seconds up the road is the 62 bike, and Ethan from Maidstone in Kent, it's a long way home, so he probably wants to get this race finished as soon as possible and get on the road, and he's doing it in sensational style, because at the moment he's up the road from Ronnie Harris, and his rival in the championship is under threat from Blake Wilson and Ollie Horner. So as you say, exactly the wrong scenario that Ronnie Harris wants to find himself in. Behind that battle once again is continuing, and we always see this in GP50s. We see this gaggle of bikes, and Filip Sorowiak's got a really nice run on Clayton Edmonds now to come into the final corner. Now Filip Sorowiak goes up the inside. Can he get the move done? He does sweep up the inside. So Filip Sorowiak up the inside. Will Clayton get the cut back? Up the inside goes Clayton Edmonds, back up into 7th position. But Clayton and Filip swapping positions. Filip has been very strong so far this weekend. We've seen him jumping up from 10th into 5th. He's having a good race this weekend. Harry Payne, another rider that wasn't expecting to race in the Metro Kits this season, he's up there fighting Casey Sperry.
Yeah, he said that for him to be riding a Metro Kit this season is simply a bonus. He was just expecting to be riding the mini motos this year, so for him to be able to have a go on this MK GP50 for him is just a bonus, and it's a learning year for him in this MK GP50 category. So he's going to be learning every lap he does on that mini GP50 machine, and doing a brilliant job of it, battling with some of these guys that have been riding these bikes for a little bit longer than he has, the likes of 67 Jacob Stevenson, Ollie Sims in there, the number 20 of Casey Sperry, who we saw got robbed of a win last time out at Ello Park in the LC40 elite class. So a lot of big names in this category, and a very tough category to come into and get your results in, because we see, of course, lots of big names in this one, and a real depth of field throughout. You've seen riders such as Ethan Sparks, Ronnie Harris at the front, very quick indeed. Clayton Edmonds, who's down in 7th, he's had a win earlier this season. Filip Sorowiak picked up 5th earlier on. This is a very competitive class indeed, and it's brilliant to watch, and always provides us with great racing, as well as we just see there Clayton Edmonds leading ahead of Filip Sorowiak. This is the battle for 7th going on just slightly up the road, as well as the battle between the number 61 of Harrison McKay and the number 72 of Sam Munson. We saw these two battling it out earlier in race 2, and now they're side by side as they go into the final corner. Sam Munson trying to go the long way around. That's not going to work, but will he get the drive onto the home straight? He's trying to get that drive onto the home straight and down into the first corner. He does make that stick. A brilliantly prepared move there from the number 72 of Sam Munson. Went real wide on the entrance to the final corner, got the drive that he needed to down the straight so he could be alongside Harrison McKay as he went into the first corner. So a brilliant bit of racecraft there from Sam Munson, really impressive from the number 72. But this swapping positions between these guys is just letting the two behind him, the two riders behind them of Clayton Edmonds and Filip Sorowiak, to catch these guys a little bit. You just see they're closing in. Clayton's closing in on the number 61 of Harrison McKay in this battle at the moment. So number 146 Clayton Edmonds looking strong this weekend. He's had quite a bit of bad luck this weekend as Clayton. He had a missing foot peg earlier on in the GP70 race. He had a leaking carb in qualifying in the MK GP50s, so not quite able to show us what he's capable of this weekend.
No, we've seen from Clayton, he's a very strong driver. He just needs the bike to be under him, and unfortunately I'm sure his dad has been pulling his hair out from underneath him, and it's really been a struggle for Clayton to make sure that he can get that bike going, because it's been a real struggle for him. He's had issues here and there. We know that he's very strong, and I'm sure he'll get back on the pace in Red Lodge in 2 weeks' time, as Filip Sorowiak gets a run out, took a tighter line through the hairpin at turn 4, and unable to get the launch up the inside of Clayton Edmonds on that very colourful bike. And you can always tell where Clayton is on circuit, because he's very much a feast of the eyes of colour and he does a brilliant job out there on that one, and under difficult circumstances. However, this time he's stuck in this battle for 6th position between Sam Munson, Harrison McKay, and Sam, who made that brilliant move on Harrison, shaping it up into the main straight later, a few laps ago. And they're now having this battle with Clayton Edmonds and Filip Sorowiak close in, with Filip Sorowiak looking really strong, trying to get past Clayton Edmonds. But one rider at the front that is really starting to pull away is Ethan Sparks. He went fastest in that last time around, a 54.802, comfortably faster than Ronnie Harris. And Ronnie in 2nd position on the track, in 2nd position in the championship, and still fending off Blake Wilson. He's not come under too much threat. They're just there. It's an annoyance, isn't it? They're not a threat. It's just an annoyance. Yeah, absolutely so. I mean, but Blake Wilson trying all he can to get onto the back of Ronnie Harris. But we've seen Ethan Sparks, Ronnie Harris in a bit of a class above the rest so far this season. So for the likes of Blake Wilson and Ollie Horner to be able to go with him, they're just trying to hang on to his coattails at the moment in this race. But Ronnie Harris definitely with the advantage over them at the moment, with 0.8 of a second lead he has over the likes of Blake Wilson and Ollie Horner. So those guys battling it out for the 2nd and 3rd places on the podium in this race. The final race of the day for the MK GP50s. We've seen Ethan Sparks take 2 from 2 so far this weekend and a pole position. So will he be able to take 3 from 3? Well, he's looking in a very good place to be able to do it. 6.2 seconds it was last time over the line. Just easing that pace off a little bit now. He's got a nice big lead at the front. 3 laps to go in this race. Doesn't need to do anything stupid now. Just needs to just bring it home there in first place. Bring him 25 points for the championship and extend that championship lead. Of course, Ethan Sparks looking to pick up 2 championships this year. He's leading the AC40 Pros as well as leading the MK GP50s. So he could very well become a double champion this year, could the number 62 of Ethan Sparks. So it could be 2020, could definitely be Ethan Sparks' year. But Sam Munson now just ahead of Harrison McKay. This is the battle for 5th spot, hotting up really nicely. And now Clayton Edmonds is right on the back of these guys. So Clayton has closed in on the number 61 of Harrison McKay and the number 72 of Sam Munson, and he's going to be looking to try and find his way through on these riders. You can just see there using all the track as the number 61 of Harrison McKay, doing everything he can to make himself as wide as possible to make sure Clayton Edmonds can't find his way through. But I think that was Sam Munson that must have gone wide there, because Harrison McKay and Clayton Edmonds are now ahead of Samuel Munson. So a mistake at the hairpin there for Sam Munson has let Harrison McKay through, and now Clayton Edmonds up into 6th spot in this race. Yep, as they trade positions once again, and Sam, all of the good work he'd done earlier in this one has been undone with that just the smallest of errors, running a slightly wide as Clayton Edmonds is going to look to the inside of Harrison McKay. Door not quite open. Sam Munson equally is going to want to get back on the pace and get ahead of Clayton Edmonds. They're going to use all the runoff area, and will Sam look to do the same thing as Munson takes a tight line around the final corner and tries to get a run on Clayton Edmonds as they come up to the line. We're on the final lap of this one, and it's Ethan Sparks leading away by 7 seconds to Ronnie Harris in 2nd position. Blake Wilson and Ollie Horner have not had anything to really challenge Ronnie Harris with, but the man at the front, Ethan Sparks, has had a comfortable weekend so far. He's been way up the road from everyone else and really dominated this MK GP70 weekend, and it was the 750 weekend, sorry, but it's going to come around the final few corners. Into Sunny Bend comes Ethan Sparks. Into the final corner for the final time this weekend comes Ethan Sparks, coming to the line to take the checkered flag. And Ethan Sparks is a multi-time race winner this weekend and takes a big lead in the championship, going to Red Lodge. Up to the line comes Ronnie Harris, 2nd position for Ronnie, and then Blake Wilson rounds out the podium with Ollie Horner in 4th. Up to the line, it's going to be Clayton Edmonds, Harrison McKay, Sam Munson and Filip Sorowiak. So all 4 of them coming to the line within a second of each other. Clayton Edmonds getting Harrison McKay on the last lap up into 5th position. Brilliant result there from the 146 Clayton. Yeah, that was a brilliant race there for Clayton Edmonds. Just carved his way through the field from 10th place on the grid. So a brilliant 5th place there from Clayton Edmonds. And that is the first time this season that anyone has taken 3 wins from 3 in the MK GP50 class. These guys have always been really matched for pace at the front of this one, but not this weekend. Ethan Sparks has been the dominant force and has taken this weekend by force and just picked up 3 wins from 3 here for the MK GP50s and extends his championship lead out the front. He's leading the AC40 Pros and he's leading the MK
GP50s. And there it is confirmed then. Ethan Sparks takes his third win of the weekend, the only rider to pick up 3 from 3 this year in the MK GP50s, with Ronnie Harris second in the championship and second in that race. Blake Wilson with another brilliant podium there in third place. Ollie Horner in fourth. Clayton Edmonds with a brilliant fifth place, coming up from 10th on the grid. Harrison McKay picks up 6th ahead of Sam Munson in 7th. Philip Saraviak, who picked up 5th earlier on, he finished 8th in this one, ahead of Cameron Saul, who was having a good weekend, and Charlie Huntingford down in 10th place.